All right, welcome in, guys. Farzin Vasugian here with you for another episode of the Chief Zone podcast. In the lovely sweltering heat in Kansas City, boy, props to anyone out there working outdoors, doing all that kind of stuff in the summertime. It's not even July, and it's the weather's just been insane and crazy here. So seriously, props to anyone who works outside, does a lot of work outside. It is pretty icky out there. It is not fun to say the least. And I think I just saw there was a soccer game in Kansas City for Copa America. A soccer referee actually passed out for a moment. So it's definitely concerning out there. Stay cool. If you're able to hook up a delivery driver with water, Gatorade, whatever it is, man, do it. Small things like that can go a really long way. Kindness. That's all it really takes to make the world a better place. That's what I've always thought, at least. All right, on the docket for today's episode, the Kansas City Chiefs have made a decision on Isaiah Buggs. They have released him. He is no longer a Kansas City Chief. It's funny. His activities have been talked about a lot, but the Chiefs releasing him didn't get the same kind of coverage. Interesting how that all works out. A lot of people are talking about the Chiefs and their ability to try to three-peat. Can the Chiefs pull off a three-peat? What reasons do people have to doubt the Chiefs in their quest in trying to three-peat? We'll talk about that. Also, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, they're getting a lot of attention lately. And the entire world is talking about it. Everyone's going crazy about their most recent activity together on the stage at a concert. We'll talk about that. The Chiefs announced they're teaming up with Hallmark for a Christmas movie. This time it's actually a Christmas movie, I think. I'll give my thoughts on that. And also, today is the 41st anniversary of the passing of Joe Delaney. So we definitely need to take a moment and recognize that moment and recognize Joe Delaney. This is going to be the final podcast before essentially before we take a break for the holidays. So this will be the last podcast for a couple of weeks. We'll be back on July the 10th. That is the next time. In fact, that is going to be the special anniversary of the Chief Zone podcast. If I'm doing my math right, it's going to be the 17-year anniversary of the Chief Zone podcast. So yeah, it is. It's been a crazy ride, to say the least. Before we move on, I want to let you know this podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the place to go for your ticketing needs, whether you want to go to a sporting event, want to go to a concert, whatever it is. Chiefs, Royals, Jayhawks, Tigers, K-State, Wildcats, Sporting KC, KC Current, whatever it is you want to go to, whatever sporting events you want to attend, whatever concerts you'd like to go to SeatGeek.com. Get your tickets from there. And if you're a new SeatGeek customer, you can use my promo code Farzine and you will save $20 off your first purchase from SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com. Get your tickets, put in the promo code Farzine, and if you're a new SeatGeek customer, you will save $20 off your first purchase from SeatGeek. Before we get started here, I want to let you guys know, last week I asked you guys, because, I always want to do things that you guys are willing to have on the podcast, things that you guys are willing to do. If no one's wanting to use that kind of feature, then I won't do it. But we are going to start taking phone calls for the podcast. Now, we kind of treat this like a radio show. Obviously, we're streaming live on Facebook and on Instagram. For those of you who watch all of the post-game live streams, or maybe you're new and you're not familiar with all of that, basically what we do after every single game, with the exception of maybe one or two if I'm traveling and whatnot, we do post-game live chats, and everyone can call in with their thoughts. Let me know, let the whole world know what their thoughts are on what just happened at the Chiefs game. And I've been thinking for a while, what if we open that up for every single podcast? And a lot of you guys voted yes during last week's podcast. So it is in the comment section. It should be the pinned post, or excuse me, the pinned comment. I don't really know how that works on my end. For me, I just hit the button that says pinned comment, and it should be the first comment you see on there. But if you're not seeing it, I will enter it right now in the chat. Yeah, there it is, the call-in link. If you guys want to call in. So hopefully we get some call-ins. It is the summertime. We don't really get a lot of Chiefs news this time of year. So maybe we don't have a lot of call-ins, or maybe any call-in today, and that's okay. But certainly I would expect that to go up as we get closer and closer to training camp. And that's also another reason why we're taking a break, not just the holiday, but there's not a whole lot to talk about. If there is any kind of breaking news in the next week or two, I might pop in and do a live stream, maybe not a podcast, just a live stream, and we'll chat it up, whatever the breaking news might be. Okay, spent a lot of time on all of those housekeeping stuff, so let's go ahead and get on with the show here. And again, if you guys want to call in, whatever you want to talk about, or respond to something I'm talking about, feel free to do all of that. The Chiefs have released Isaiah Buggs. He is no longer a Kansas City Chief. He, I guess technically, is a Super Bowl champion. He signed with the team a week before the Super Bowl. And yeah, he's a Super Bowl champion just like that, even though he didn't play a snap. I remember this was brought up in 2016. There was a someone on the Kansas City Royals, I don't remember his name, but he was on the 25-man roster for just one day in 2015. And because he was on the team for just one game, he was considered a World Series champion. He received the World Series ring. So I don't really know how this whole thing works with Super Bowl rings and whatnot, if it varies from team to team, how they want to handle all of that. But Isaiah Buggs, he is a Super Bowl champion. He is recognized as one because he was on the team. Even though he didn't play, he was part of the team's practice squad the day of the Super Bowl. So he is considered a Super Bowl champion, oddly enough. But you guys all know the story with him. 2 arrests this summer, one for animal cruelty and the other for domestic violence. And the Chiefs did not release him instantly. And if you guys follow the Chiefs very closely, you'll know that they take their time with these kinds of things. They're not going to jump to conclusions. They want to get both sides of the story, and they want to do their due diligence before making any kind of decision. We've seen this many times. The only time where I think they've tried to move very quickly on anything like this was the Kareem Hunt situation. When the video came out, Clark Hunt, who lives in Dallas and only comes to Kansas City as far as during the season, is on game day, maybe one or two other special occasions. But other than that, Clark Hunt never comes to Kansas City except for on game days. But when you look at this whole situation here, the Chiefs took their time with this, spent a few days trying to gather all of the facts, talking to Isaiah Buggs, talking to whoever else they can talk to. And they simply came to the conclusion, which is no surprise here, that he should be released. Listen, this is not, again, who is Isaiah Buggs? I do a podcast on this team. I mean, if you're a podcaster or a blogger, you have to follow this team pretty closely. If you're a journalist, like an Adam Teicher or a Nate Taylor, Matt Derrick, the people who cover the Chiefs for The Athletic, Sam McDowell for the Kansas City Star, ESPN, Chiefs Digest, whatever, you got to follow this team pretty closely. No one knew who Isaiah Buggs was. Seriously, how many times has Adam Teicher, who has been covering the Chiefs since Marty Schottenheimer's first season here, how many times has Adam Teicher run about Isaiah Buggs? Seriously. He's gone. And the media, of course, they're not talking about this as much as they were with the activities before, saying, oh, what's wrong with Kansas City this offseason? And yeah, listen, it's been kind of a strange offseason with some of the off the field troubles with Rice, with Buggs, Chuck Godric, and Wanya Mars. Hey, listen, it's weed. It's not the worst thing in the world, far from it, but rules are rules. And then, of course, you had Xavier Worthy, whose car was stolen, the Harrison Butker thing that just became a crazy story in and of itself. And let's not forget, I mean, this offseason, unfortunately, kind of started with that parade shooting. It's been kind of just a strange season altogether. And, hopefully better times are ahead, because in the midst of a three-peat, this isn't really, I mean, this is not what should be talked about. I think as fans, you deserve all of the glory in all of this, but unfortunately, coming off back-to-back Super Bowls and all of the great success the Chiefs have had, it's been kind of overshadowed a little bit with some of these off the field incidents, so to say. Not all of them have been trouble. I mean, like Xavier Worthy, his car was stolen. I mean, a lot of that part not really within his control, of course. I mean, hopefully his car was locked when it happened, but neither here nor there. It's been kind of a weird offseason, so to say. But I did mention three-peating, and this has been getting a lot of discussion lately. I mean, listen, there's not a lot going on right now in sports with the NBA and the NHL playoffs. Obviously fewer and fewer teams, and now those two seasons, basketball and hockey, are over with. And all you really have at the moment is baseball and some Major League Soccer, which doesn't get talked about much, and international soccer, which again doesn't get a lot of coverage here. NFL offseason talk dominates the majority of the conversation, even for the next 3 to 4 weeks, when there's no training camp or practices of any kind. It's still going to be the thing that gets talked about the most. And I was listening to ESPN radio on Sunday, and I apologize, I don't remember the name of the host on the weekends, but somebody was on Sunday evening talking to Field Yates, who is an NFL insider for ESPN. And they were talking about the odds of three-peating, and they kind of turned that into a unique segment where who has the best chances of three-peating? Is it going to be the Chiefs? Is it going to be the Las Vegas Aces? Or is it going to be UConn that three-peats? So they kind of have fun with that discussion here. But at the here, you're getting a lot of this discussion everywhere on social media. Obviously, the Chiefs, they've been talked about a lot, whether you're a Chiefs fan or you're not a Chiefs fan. Obviously, a lot of non-Chiefs fans do not want to see them three-peat. A lot of people not really a fan of their success for various reasons. Whether it's just the amount that they win, the fact that they pulled off a Super Bowl win last year, or the whole Taylor Swift thing. People have various reasons to hate on the Chiefs. And with the discussion of attempting a three-peat, what valid reason has anybody given to doubting the Chiefs in their quest to three-peat? There have only been two reasons. You want to hear the first one? The first one is no team has ever done it before. So, okay, no team has ever three-peated in NFL history before. So, because of that, the Chiefs are not going to three-peat. Those are not my words. Those are the words of people out there that are doubting the Chiefs. That's one reason why people are doubting the Chiefs, for those who are doubting the Chiefs in their quest to three-peat. As far as the other reason, injuries. So there are two reasons given here as to why the Chiefs won't three-peat. One of them is based on historical patterns, which, okay, they're nice to look at, but in the grand scheme of things, they don't mean anything. Not one thing at all. By the way, I see a lot of you guys in the comments. I promise I'm not ignoring you guys. Feel free, keep commenting. I don't know if you guys saw the link. For those of you coming in late, call in if you guys want to. We're going to start doing call-ins for the podcast. Let's see how this goes. By the way, one quick thing. Do you guys hear this noise? Can you just comment what you heard? There's a reason why I'm asking this. I know it sounds a little weird and random, but if you guys don't mind in the comments, let me know what you just heard other than me. That way I can make sure things are working. I mean, I check all my settings beforehand. Okay, you guys heard air horns. Good. Because last week I did play the air horns, and thankfully the people who know me personally texted me and let me know that Scott says Bigfoot call. Yeah, that could be a Bigfoot call. I did not have the right microphone settings last week. So that was okay. Air horns. Perfect. I always triple check my audio settings and my video settings. And last week I just didn't. I dropped the ball on that. Fumbled right before showtime. But anyway, I'll get to all of you guys' comments in a moment here. But I do want to take a moment and talk about this whole three-peat thing, because the two big reasons people have to doubt the Chiefs in their quest of three-peat is, one is based on historical patterns, which we all know does not mean anything in the grand scheme of things, and the other is just based on, maybe some wishful thinking here. Now, do fans in general want to wish injuries on anyone? No, I mean, at least the sane ones don't. But let's be honest here. There are some people out there who are kind of hoping for it. I remember when the Golden State Warriors were stacking up, they added KD to that powerful roster. There was an anonymous general manager. I love these kinds of reports. An anonymous GM that was wishing for injury on the Golden State Warriors. Guys, again, not that, we have proof of this, but it would not doubt me one bit if people would hope for some kind of an injury bug to go around the team this year, because those people are right. An injury bug would prevent the Chiefs from possibly three-peating. But if those are the only two reasons you can really bring up as to why the Chiefs won't three-peat, that's basically code for, they're three-peating. Nobody has given a valid on-the-field reason as to why this Chiefs team won't three-peat. No one's been able to provide that. Nobody is talking about how bad they think the offense is going to be this year. No one's talking about that. Obviously, everyone knows the story with last year's offense and the historical amount of drops the Chiefs set was pretty damn bad. But they found a way to win the Super Bowl despite the offensive ball. The Chiefs, with their drops and the fumbles, that carried over from game 1 all the way to game 20, the Super Bowl. The Chiefs had drop issues and ball security issues in the Super Bowl. So even with all of that, the Chiefs still won it all. What happens now with the Chiefs offense, which nobody is doubting one bit, because everybody's expecting a big improvement on the offensive side of the football with Xavier Worthy being drafted, Hollywood Brown coming in. A lot of people feel pretty good about this Chiefs offense. Rashee Rice has a year under his belt. Obviously, all of those pieces help out a guy like Travis Kelce, who kind of took a step back last year, still played at a high level, but did take steps back last year. And now there's not a lot of pressure on him. And listen, maybe Travis Kelce, because of how many weapons there are, I don't know how many 1,000-yard receivers we're going to have on this team this year. Maybe we have a couple. Maybe we have 3 or 4 receivers that fall short of 1,000 receiving yards. And I would be completely okay with that, because it just shows how good this offense is, and Mahomes is going to be distributing the football all around this year. I think there will be a couple of 1,000-yard receivers. I do think Hollywood Brown and Travis Kelce are going to be those 2 1,000-yard receivers. I think Isaiah Pacheco has a very good chance to finally get his first 1,000-yard season as a rusher, as a running back. So I think you're going to see a lot of that as the season goes on. But nobody's diminishing this offense. Even though they're coming off a bad season, at least by their own standard, nobody is talking about how bad they think the Chiefs offense is going to be. Seriously, has there been anyone out there that's actually given a valid reason as to why they think the Chiefs offense is going to be bad? No one's been able to talk about that this year. No one. Now, on the defensive side of the football, there are maybe a couple of cases you can make against this Chiefs defense. They lost 2 good defenders this year in Willie Gay and L'Jarius Sneed. Again, both are great players. Willie Gay is a very underrated linebacker, a great run-stopping linebacker. I brought this up before. However, what game did Willie Gay not play in that a lot of Chiefs fans were nervous about when the inactive list came out? the AFC Championship game. Who did the Chiefs? What was the ranking in the AFC Championship game for the Ravens? They were the number one rushing team in the NFL. Obviously, Lamar Jackson a big part of that, but still number one in the NFL in that category. And the Chiefs kept them in check. I mean, Lamar Jackson had nowhere to run to, and whenever he was trying to sling the football out there, he had a very difficult time doing that. Yeah, he had a few plays here and there, but the Chiefs kept that Ravens offense in check, both passing and running. And then let's go to L'Jarius Sneed, who, I think is a very unfortunate loss for the Chiefs. Obviously, I had to do it for salary cap purposes here. But, and again, it's worth noting that Sneed is coming off his best season ever, and he deserves to be considered as an elite cornerback in the NFL. But an elite cornerback only takes away one good receiver. You know what a good pass rush does? They take away all of the receivers. That's what a good pass rush does. And you want to know something here? The Chiefs have their entire pass rushing unit back. You know what this unit did last year? It ranked second in the NFL in total sacks with 57, 3 behind the league leader in Baltimore with 60. So the Chiefs almost led the NFL in sacks last season. And listen, you got to account for the fact that Chris Jones did miss one game. Yeah, it was just one game, but who knows? Maybe the Chiefs tie or come very closer to being number one in that category. Yeah, Blake mentions Leo Chenal. I'm excited for Leo Chenal. I think Leo Chenal did a lot of good things in the first half of last season. We didn't see much of him in the second half, and I don't know why. But whenever we saw him last year, especially when Willie Gay missed some games, Drew Tranquill missed a little bit of time, Willie Gay missed a little bit of time as well, we saw a lot more of Leo Chenal. And this guy finally got a chance to prove himself on the field going after QBs. I think he had like 6 or 7 QB hits last year, which, again, for a guy that doesn't play a lot of snaps, that is pretty good. That is pretty good for a guy like Leo Chenal. And now that Willie Gay has moved on, I think they want a guy like Leo Chenal to do the things that Willie Gay did. And I've said this before about Chenal, and I'll say it again. I think Chenal's capable of playing the edge rusher position in the NFL if the Chiefs or any NFL team, depending on how Chenal's career unfolds, I think he'd be capable of playing edge rusher in the NFL. I think he's got that kind of mentality and physicality to be able to succeed at a position like that. And the Chiefs kind of did use him like that last year a little bit at times. Obviously, we know what Spags loves to do. He loves to blitz with linebackers and defensive backs, and that definitely rattled a lot of quarterbacks last year. That was a huge reason why the Chiefs were so successful defensively and as a team, especially when the offense, the offense obviously had their struggles last year. So even though you lost Gay and you lost Sneed, you have all of your defensive line back. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think the Chiefs made any changes with their defensive line. You have the same unit. Now, I think there might be an undrafted player they brought in after the draft. Like, okay, fine. But in general, though, like, who are your 4 starting defensive linemen? And who are the 4 backups behind those starters? It's going to be the same guys. Now, the only one that, we're not exactly sure of would be Charles Omenihu. And I know Charles Omenihu has been doing his YouTube series on his rehab and recovery and saying that he's going to prove a lot of people wrong, which, hell, I would love. I would be one of those people he's proving wrong. Because I've said many times, I don't know if he's going to be available in week 1. He suffered an ACL injury very late in the season, in late January. And listen, there's never a good time for an injury. If you suffer an injury like in the preseason, that season ending, well, then you just missed the entire year. If you suffer a season-ending type of injury in late January or early February, because the Chiefs do kind of play in that time frame a lot lately, then it does impact whether or not you'll be available for the start of the upcoming season. But Charles Omenihu has been very set on saying that he's going to prove a lot of people wrong, and he's going to be playing a lot of games for the Chiefs. And I hope that's the case. The Chiefs need Charles Omenihu this year Charles Amin, who was into the first game because of a domestic violence incident from his time in San Francisco, if he played all of the 17 games last year, he probably has double-digit sacks and might be considered a Pro Bowl or maybe an All-Pro type of pass rusher in the NFL. So this is a guy that, didn't play every single game last season, yet he still went out there, had 7 sacks in how many games exactly? 11 regular season games. And if you recall, not that the Chiefs offense took advantage of this, unfortunately, but in the AFC Championship game, he strip sacked Lamar Jackson, which was huge. So this is someone who has really stepped up for the Chiefs defense and has made a lot of big plays opposite of George Karlaftis. And look, you have FAU, who didn't play a whole lot last year, but in the times we did see him, he looked very good. Looked good in that Chargers game in Week 18. I know it's the Chargers. You can't really put a lot of stock into that because there were a lot of backups on both sides playing in that game. But when we saw FAU in the Super Bowl, he had a couple of good stops against Christian McCaffrey, arguably the best running back in the NFL right now. So he's someone that's due for a second-year surge. Didn't play a whole lot his rookie season, so we'll see what happens there. Mike Dana had a really good season last year, his best season in the NFL so far, and the Chiefs are going to let him continue to go out there and eat up quarterbacks. So, and you guys all know Chris Jones, what he's capable of in the middle there. He anchors that entire defensive line. So it's going to be a lot of fun watching this Chiefs team, but they have essentially the same defense. Yeah, a couple of a linebacker and a cornerback are gone. Mike Edwards also moved on to Buffalo. You still have your front guys. That's what's important with this Chiefs defense right now. So the Chiefs defense, they will take a little bit of a step back, but it won't be anything significant or noticeable. Nobody has given any valid reasons as to why this Chiefs team will not three-peat. Nobody's given one reason for this. And I think at the end of the day, we're just going to have to accept. I mean, as Chiefs fans, we kind of know this, but everyone out there that's trying to pretend to be in denial, they know damn well that this is a Chiefs team that is going to make a very deep run, and their chances of three-peating are strong. I will say this. I've seen a couple people mention that the Chiefs have had a shorter offseason compared to other teams in recent years. Do you guys really think that playing, 5 or 6 extra weeks is really impacting the Chiefs? Do you think playing into February 2 years in a row is impacting the Chiefs this exact second right now on June the 25th? Hell no. I mean, this is a Chiefs team that, everyone still gets rest at the end of the day. Yeah, a team like the Chiefs, they've been playing a lot more. I think I saw a stat out there. What is Patrick Mahomes' postseason record? It's 15-3, I think. 15-3. So that's essentially an extra, more than a regular season. So, yeah, the Chiefs have been playing a lot more, but that's kind of what happens when you are a good team. You play a lot more games, and I don't think that impacts. You still get an off season. People are acting like the Chiefs do not get an off season at all. I mean, by this time, June the 25th, which, by the way, nobody's practicing. Everyone's on their own right now, training and kind of relaxing, not doing a whole lot of work. The Chiefs are going to be fine. So that whole rest thing is going to be, I mean, that's going to be put to sleep pretty soon. You'll see. I know this has been brought up with LeBron James, because wherever he went, whether it was Cleveland or Miami or back to Cleveland, and I think in his first or second year with LA, I think there was this weird stat that LeBron James had played in the NBA Finals like 7 or 8 years in a row, something to that effect. I mean, and again, I don't mean to compare basketball to football, but it is worth noting that in basketball, the postseasons are much longer, and in the NBA, their off seasons are way shorter, especially if you do reach the NBA Finals. You have a very short off season. There's not a lot of downtime in the NBA if you reach the NBA Finals. And you still see a guy like LeBron James, and I know there are a lot of opinions about him, play at a very high level. So the idea that the Chiefs are going to struggle because of, I guess, lack of extra weeks in the offseason is comical at best. Certainly not anything that concerns me. John thinks Pacheco will have over 1,100 yards. That'd be great, man. I hope so. Blake says, do you believe the Chiefs extend Creed before week 1? You think Veach extends 2 of the remaining 3 players from the 2021 draft class? It's a really good question. I don't know. I have no idea how the Chiefs are going to approach the 2021 draft class because they have a shit ton of good players to consider here. Obviously, the 3 players you're referring to are Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Nick Bolton. With Drew Tranquil's contract, a very team-friendly 3-year deal, I would say Bolton might be the odd man out, and I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. He's obviously very popular going to Mizzou and has a strong contingency of fans here. Humphrey and Smith are 2 very important guys you do not want to lose. Trey Smith, that one scares me because the market for the offensive guard position went up this offseason by a lot. And that's something that the Chiefs have to figure out because that's not going to be easy for them trying to keep Trey Smith. I think Creed Humphrey is a lock. The Chiefs are going to keep Creed Humphrey. Trey Smith is going to be very difficult. If the Chiefs did not give Juwan Taylor the contract they gave him, and listen, maybe Juwan Taylor can prove that he's going to be much better in his second year with the Chiefs compared to last year. And I know he was picked on last year for the dumbest reasons with the pre-snap crap. But let's see what happens. If he's playing better, then obviously the contract will be worth it. But it might still, kind of hurt your chances of keeping Trey Smith. It's going to be very difficult to do. It's going to be very difficult for sure. Is Matt Ariza already winning a job is a good sign he still has it? Well, for as much as we hear about him being the punt god and all of that, Dave Tobe did a press conference. When was it? I think it was like the end of May. And he said that it is a very close competition between Ariza and the other punter. And my apologies, I don't have the other punter's name because I did not know the Chiefs felt that good about the other punter. Or is he even still on the team? I don't know. Let me do a quick look at our lads if he's listed on there because he's not on the Chiefs website, which would be a surprise to me. Maybe they did move on from him. Okay, must have missed that completely. But yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, there's your answer. And listen, why would it not be? I think Dave Tope was kind of just throwing a smoke screen there. They don't want to show his hand in that situation. But yeah, I mean, he's the punt god. He has a cannon for a leg. So yeah, would not surprise me if that's who the Chiefs went with anyway. Joshua says, bets that Jones gets 20 sacks this year. I would not bet that. How many interior defensive linemen have had 20 sacks? I hope he does. I really hope he does, but that is a very difficult thing to do for any pass rusher. It's even harder for the guys who are interior defensive linemen. You just don't see it as often. You see it more so with guys who play defensive end or outside linebacker more so than a nose tackle or a defensive tackle. So I would not bet that. Listen, I think Chris Jones can probably get double-digit sacks. I think he could have anywhere between 13 to 16 in general, which is still a very good and might put him in position to win Defensive Player of the Year. I know he's talked about trying to attain that goal, trying to win that. I hope he does, but again, I think that's a tall order for an interior defensive lineman because a lot of times defensive backs and edge rushers just seem to be the guys who are always the favorable candidates to get that award. Scott says, I'm telling you, the running game will be dangerous. I think so. Listen, I think Isaiah Pacheco does not get the credit that he deserves, and I think he's going to have a much better season. He's getting better and better every year with the Chiefs. We saw what he did his rookie season, which was insane. The way he stepped up in the very first game, even scoring for the Chiefs, the way he did, and just played better and better each week. And you heard announcers even mention the two things that the announcers mentioned in 2022 in all of the Chiefs games were, oh no, what's going to happen without Tyreek Hill, which we know that narrative changed quite a bit. And the other one was, how was Isaiah Pacheco a 7th round draft pick? I feel like that every announcer brought that up every single game that year. And now he's one of the better running backs, one of the more rising players in the running position. Blake says they can't find one. They're just jealous because their team isn't good enough to beat us. Yeah, I mean, look, here's the crazy thing: is the Chiefs lost by their own standards. They lost a lot of games last year. And they still found a way to win the Super Bowl. The way the Chiefs were losing games too, like the Eagles game with that, they had a big lead, they blew it, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling with that infamous drop in the end zone that every single person in that stadium dropped their jaw. The way they lost to the Denver Broncos, where the offense did not score any touchdowns. In the Raiders game, where the Chiefs, the entire offense, Patrick Mahomes to everybody else, they just did not look like they were playing with any confidence whatsoever. And now you just look at the team, and they've got a far better offense than that. And even again with the Chiefs and the struggles they had last year, they won the Super Bowl. Listen, even I doubted the Chiefs at one point. They find a way, man. They just find a way. Donnie says, Kansas acting like a mistress begging a man to leave his wife. Man, I will never understand the harsh tone between the two states. I mean, I really don't get it. Look, the Raiders moved 8 hours away. Their fan base is still intact. Why is it that the Raiders fan base is accepting of an 8-hour move, but people in Kansas City are so up in arms about a potential 20-minute move? Okay, maybe 25 or 30 minutes with traffic. I don't understand the whole thing. People are saying that the border war runs deep in their blood. Yeah, if it's KU versus MU, I get it. This is not the Jayhawks versus Tigers. Listen, man, I love y'all. I really do. I think Chiefs fans are great, but you guys sometimes make the biggest deal out of like the weirdest thing. Look, would you rather they move to Kansas and stay in the Kansas City area, or would you rather they move somewhere else, like completely out of the metro area, out of Kansas and Missouri? I think it is time they move. Or at least get a new stadium. Maybe they can build it at the Truman Sports Complex. I doubt it, but it is time to move on, I think. And I think people are having this weird civil war within its own fan base. I mean, do Jets and Giants fans do this with New York and New Jersey? Do Bengals fans do this with Ohio and Kentucky? I mean, did when the Rams were in St. Louis, did people in Illinois and Missouri do that? I don't know, man. It's just weird to me how the discussion for this thing goes sometimes. I just Kevin says we all doubted them. Yeah, it was just hard. I mean, listen, they gave us a reason to doubt them. But you know what's crazy is I still remember every time the Chiefs would lose, you would hear Rich Eisen or Pat McAfee or Colin Cowherd. They would go on their shows and they would say, hey, all the Chiefs need to do is flip the switch. And I'm kind of listening to these guys. And listen, normally my opinions don't ever get steered by anyone else. I always have my opinions and I stick with them, and no one really convinces me either way. But I'm listening to these guys and they keep talking about flipping. Even after the Raiders week 16 loss, it's like, if you're losing games like that in week 16, what concerns, like, how do you even get it together that late in the season? And I still heard the same narrative from a lot of those guys in the national media was they just got to flip the switch. And guess what? They flipped the switch. Was it perfect? Hell no. I just mentioned the drops in the lack of uh, the lack of care with the football. It was from game one all the way to the final game in the Super Bowl. So you saw that for a very long time. But they did flip the switch. Marquez Valdez-Scantling came through with a lot of big catches in the Buffalo game. He had that big game-sealing catch in the AFC title game, had a touchdown catch in the Super Bowl. McCole Hardman, who, kind of had a weird year, had some flashes and then some really bad moments, obviously capped it off with that big Super Bowl catch to win it. And he also, keep in mind, he had 2 weeks in a row where he was wide open on a deep pass thrown in his direction and he just lost track of the football. He was able to make that play in double coverage in the Super Bowl. So that to me was a more impressive catch than the game winner in overtime from McCole Hardman. And I know there was a question earlier, I think I saw from John. If I scroll up a little bit, John was asking about my thoughts on McCole Hardman coming back and how he's going to fit into the rotation. Listen, McCole Hardman's progress in the NFL has not been a good one. It has been very, very, very slow. I think the Jets not using him was maybe evident as to why we're not seeing much of McCole Hardman. He has an amazing skill set. And I said this before the Chiefs brought him back. I said, look, that is a guy you kind of maybe want to give another chance to because he's got great speed. It's not Tyreek Hill speed, but still very good speed and can do a lot of damage to opposing defenses. And somebody that, if he can just nullify the drops, he's going to be a very good wide receiver. He's just got to focus. And I think a lot of it is more mental than physical for McCole Hardman. As far as how he fits into the rotation, look, I think the Chiefs will always find a way. If you have followed the Chiefs very closely, which all of you have, in the Patrick Mahomes era, you'll know that Patrick Mahomes distributes the ball very well across the board, not just to Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. He gets everybody involved. Obviously, Tyreek Hill is no longer on the team and still finds ways to distribute the football to the rest of the offense. Last year, yeah, maybe not the same way, but it's certainly not his fault. I mean, he was hitting receivers right in the hands. Perhaps that's also another reason why you don't give up on Kadarius Toney, because you think he is going to be worth it if he just focuses and erases his mistakes, which we've yet to really see. But we'll see how that pans out. Obviously, he played great 2 years ago. His first year with the Chiefs had the historical record-setting return, longest return in Super Bowl history, longest punt return, I should say, in Super Bowl history. So I hope he does better for sure. Samuel says, I don't see anyone in the AFC stopping the Chiefs, just telling it like it is. Who do you think is a threat to them? I do think the Chargers maybe. I mean, listen, the Chargers had to let go of a lot of good players, but I think coaching still can make a big difference. I think the Chargers are the biggest threat in the division, though still a big gap between 1 and 2. But I think who's the biggest threat to them in the conference? To me, it's Houston. And I think Baltimore is still a contender. And then behind those two teams, you got teams like the Bills and the Bengals. But outside of that, I mean, it's really hard to believe there's someone. Will the Chiefs lose games next year? Yeah, of course they will. Every team. No, they're not going undefeated. Even with that improvement, they're not going undefeated. That's just difficult. You're going to lose games you're not expected to lose. Happens every year to the Chiefs. It happened the year they won Super Bowl 54, happened the year they won Super Bowl 57, and the year they won Super Bowl 58, as well as the year they went to Super Bowl 55, had that unexpected loss to the Raiders. Almost went undefeated that year, but didn't pull it off, but still came very close. But I think this is a Chiefs team that's going to I see them as a 3-loss football team. I don't think they lose more than 4 games at the very max this season. Mahomes is what everyone thought Rodgers would be, a Super Bowl talented QB, but unlike Mahomes, he has a diva and chokes in playoff games and is more Joe Montana in big games, and Joe was clutch in key moments. Yeah, I get what you're saying there, Blake. In fact, I think I posted this earlier tonight. There's a graphic showing the top quarterbacks and how many playoff wins they've won. Patrick Mahomes has more playoff victories than any active quarterback in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers has played 2.5 times longer in the NFL than Patrick Mahomes. Yet Patrick Mahomes has 4 more playoff wins than Rodgers and 3 more Super Bowl wins than Rodgers. The only thing Rodgers has on Mahomes right now is total MVPs. Rodgers has 4, Mahomes has 2. Now, obviously the length of career plays a role in that, but damn well Mahomes is going to surpass Rodgers in that category as long as he stays healthy. Teresa says, agree on Houston. Living in Southwest Houston, Texans are going to be much better under Stroud, unless Stroud has a slump. Yeah, which I don't see that to be the case. They are going to be a much better football team for sure. And by the way, with all this defensive talk about people doubting the Chiefs on three-peating, what the Chiefs have on defense that we haven't even talked about this podcast? They have Spags, okay? They have the best coordinator in NFL history. This guy has more Super Bowl rings than any coordinator in the game. He tried it out as a head coach, and it just didn't work out. Went back to being a defensive coordinator, found a lot of success doing that again. The Chiefs have the best assistant coach in the game. The best head coach, the best assistant coach, the best quarterback, the best tight end. I mean, this team has a lot going its way. A lot going its way. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I kind of want to maybe share something a little comical that I noticed with this. But obviously, you guys all saw the news with Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift in London, which Luis Rees-Zammit attended a show, not in London, but in Wales. But nonetheless, Travis Kelce actually got to be a part of Taylor Swift's concert, being part of the show where, did the whole makeup thing and fanning her and lifting her up at one point, which everybody went crazy about. Everyone at the stadium went crazy over it, and so has the media. By the way, Barstool Sports posted about this, and they're getting comments saying, stop posting so much about Taylor Swift. You guys think I post a lot about Taylor Swift, which I've gotten in the past? People telling me that. You literally have Barstool Sports, okay? Barstool. They're getting complaints about excessive Taylor Swift coverage. I mean, you're getting that now. And by the way, Barstool Sports, they recorded an interview with Travis Kelce at Tight End University, and they didn't release the podcast right away, but they released it right around the time when Travis Kelce did the on-stage thing with Taylor Swift. And so I guess that kind of played a role into the excessive Taylor Swift coverage. Man, you're getting a lot of that now. A lot of Barstool, dude. The people at Barstool Sports have really come around on Taylor Swift and the Chiefs. Even Will Compton is getting behind the Chiefs. Will freaking Compton, of all people. The Chiefs shared some news today. They're going to be partnering with Hallmark to do a Christmas movie. Yeah, Tyler Haynes, and I can't remember the actress that's also going to be involved. Yeah, it's going to be one of those rom-com Christmas Hallmark movies. I would rather get hit by a train than watch this movie. I'm just being completely honest with you guys. They did a commercial last year, or not a commercial, but a trailer. I thought it was just like for online fun, but I guess it's kind of a teaser as to what we could potentially get. Listen, I'll just be honest right now. I am going to watch it because I do this podcast and with the online content that I do, I kind of have to. But if it was not for this podcast, I would not give a damn about that film. I mean, listen, there might be some like blind Chiefs homers that will think it's going to be the greatest thing ever. I mean, listen, I'll give it a chance. I'll go into it with an open mind, but I'm not expecting this to be some great movie. I mean, there are going to be some Chiefs fans that will think it's great just because it's the Chiefs. But listen, you guys know me. I'll give it an honest review. And look, I'm not even a big Hallmark guy anyway. Like, if they announce the end of Hallmark movies for all of eternity, I would not be sad one bit. A lot of these movies are like actors who have kind of maybe fallen out of the fame and don't do a lot of acting anymore. Not meant to be a shot at anyone, but I don't know. I mean, Layla says I'm not watching anything on Hallmark. Okay, I mean, fair enough. Teresa says I'm going to watch the movie. I'm all for Christmas and Hallmark movies. We know it will have a happy ending. I mean, if it ends in a Chiefs Super Bowl three-peat, yeah, I guess. But I believe they're going to be releasing this way before that. I think it's going to be in November. So that's kind of when that's going to come out. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I guess, listen, this doesn't interest me, but I'm only watching it because I do a podcast on the Chiefs, so I kind of have to. Listen, final thing I want to touch on before we sign off and take a couple of weeks off on the podcast here. Today marks the 41-year anniversary of the death of Joe Delaney, a guy who, went out in heroic fashion. You guys all know the story. For those who don't know the story, there were 3 kids drowning in a lake. And if I'm not mistaken, Delaney did not know who any of these guys were. But he still, with no familiarity with swimming whatsoever, still dove in and attempted to save all 3 kids. Was able to save one of them, but unfortunately drowned with the other 2, unable to save them. And unfortunately, the Chiefs lost a very good football player, someone who had a lot of potential, someone whose trajectory proved that he was going to be a very good running back for a long time. And I've talked to some NFL players from that era who've told me that the speed that Joe Delaney possessed, pretty damn good. Like, you think Tyreek Hill's fast, Delaney could compete with him. And those are not my words; those are what I've been told. So, it's just unfortunate. And listen, when you look at Chiefs history, you've had some unfortunate deaths in this franchise with active players, with the Javon Belcher incident, and just the kind of situation that was. What happened there was very sad and tragic. The Derek Thomas situation was very sad. Obviously, Thomas was a hero to many Chiefs fans, and a lot of people rooted for and cheered for and viewed as a hero. But and then you also have Joe Delaney, who was a hero, a big hero off the field, attempting to save the lives of 3 kids with no swimming experience. And this also reminds me of Leonard Pope. You guys remember Leonard Pope? He played tight end for the Chiefs for a couple of years. This was after the Tony Gonzalez trade in Kansas City. Leonard Pope, one off season, jump into a swimming pool with his, and I believe it was reported that his wallet and his phone, they were in his pockets, and he jumped in trying to save a young boy who was drowning and was successful in saving him. So, listen, I mean, how do you wrap up a conversation like this? I mean, I don't really know. It's just unfortunate you've had a lot of situations like this, but definitely worth remembering for Joe Delaney and taking the time to recognize him because of the things that he did. And obviously now they've found ways to honor Joe Delaney. Part of, I believe, 435 Highway is named after him, which is definitely important and worth having. But 100% definitely needed to take the time to recognize Joe Delaney and what he did. A hero off the field. So 41 years. Very hard to believe it's been that long. All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up here on this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. Hey, I appreciate all the comments here. Didn't have any phone calls. I don't know if you guys even see the pinned comment. Do you guys see the pinned comment with the link to the call-in? Let me know if you guys do or don't, because if you don't, I need to figure that out and see why that was the case. Because a lot of you guys last week said that you guys would be willing to call into the podcast. So if you guys are going to want to do that, we want to make sure that we're able to. Maybe I just need to comment frequently, like every few minutes, kind of like what I do with the post game. Okay, you did see it, Teresa. Again, what I see on my screen, because I'm the admin, may not be the exact same as yours. So maybe that's something that I've got to figure out. But yeah, okay. So if you guys can see it, that's good. Maybe no one wanted to call in today. That is perfectly okay. I mean, listen, it's June the 25th. There isn't much to talk about. Well, we'll still continue to do that as we go on in the off season, and then into training camp, preseason, and then the regular season for sure. All right. Appreciate you guys taking the time to watch live on Facebook and on YouTube. For those of you who listened on the archive version, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, or wherever, I appreciate all of you guys as well. My name is Farzin Vasugian. I'm out. I'm going to take a couple of weeks off from all things podcasting and live streaming. If there is any breaking news, I will do maybe a short live stream at some point. Other than that, probably no podcast of any kind. So I'll be out. We'll be back on, I believe it's going to be July the 10th, Wednesday, July the 10th. That is when the Receiver Netflix series comes out. Now, no Chiefs player is going to be on it, but the Chiefs are going to be featured a lot on that. So we will have a lot to talk about, because I'm sure a lot of things Chiefs related will be brought up on that. So we will recap that and some other big Chiefs news that we have along the way on that night. Until then, enjoy yourselves. Enjoy the 4th of July week. Don't do what JPP did. Yeah, that wasn't cool. But seriously, be safe. Don't do anything crazy. Enjoy the warm weather. Enjoy the hot dogs, the burgers, the fireworks, all that good stuff. Cold beer. I will talk to you all later. Take care.